the things I want you as a leader to understand about a formation group is that we're constantly working to think about contextualization and customization. And the reason we think that way is because we understand that if I take a program into one church and it works really beautifully in their community, if I pick that up and move it to another church, it may not work specifically because every institution, every organization, every church community is a unique element. It is influenced by their particular theology, their particular history, the particular geography that they're living in. They live in a specific time and place with a specific history that influences a lot of what they do and don't do, and with sometimes even a unique and specific calling to the community, whether it's to the poor and evangelization or the kind of people that are around them that influences the mission that they do and the work that they do in the world. And we have to take that into consideration at all times. I am loath to consider that we are offering people a program in a box. It is not a program that can be opened up and done the exact same way in every context. Mission leaders need something slightly different than pastors. Marketplace leaders, embodied in context of local churches, need something different than artists, need something different than bankers. And we need to understand that we need to customize and contextualize our work to the very audience that we have. It's a way of loving a specific congregation or specific institution, is recognizing that God's doing something unique in that space that we have to listen to and pay attention to and adapt our work to find its way to serve those people the best. That's our goal, is to serve the community that God's invited us to participate with in the way that's going to see the Spirit of God move them and use them in their community and in their calling, not impose our understanding of that into their context. But it's important for you as a leader to recognize where there's flexibility and where there's not flexibility, and where there's adaptability and not adaptability. And I use the difference between flexibility and adaptability in important ways. There's a lot of flexibility in program. I've already described how we use different modules or programs throughout the course of a different cohort to fit the unique needs of that specific cohort. But there's not a lot of flexibility in the process. They all have to include regular retreats. They all have to include regular practices, and they need a mentor in their life, and they have to have a small group or a regular group. And all of those contexts have to have the same philosophy of learning, practice, reflection, and relationship. We all have to have those cohorts moving towards union with God, participation in God's people, and participation in God's mission in the world. Those are things that were inflexible. We're not going to shift on those things, but we can be flexible in our program or the content that we deliver, emphasizing art in creation for artists, or the process of mission and ministry and the unique things that go on in the life of a pastor when we're working with pastors. However, we can adapt the inflexible things. So earlier I mentioned that we adapt the way we do retreats. We can make the retreats 1 day or 3 days. We can adapt the retreats to fit a particular context or ministry, whether they're done in a city and people stay in their homes, or we go to retreat centers in rural communities, or there's lots of ways of doing the retreats a little bit differently. And there's ways of adapting some of the pedagogy at times. Sometimes we might emphasize certain elements of our learning, whether it's going deeper in relationship with God or going further in relationship and mission because of a specific group that we're dealing with. But we're not going to shift our pedagogy. We're not going to shift our process, because those are critical to the ways people learn and are transformed, and they're critical to the kind of life that we're helping them cultivate post the cohort experience. We're constantly trying to create a life where they'll continue in that philosophy and in that process after they're with us. So we're wanting to embed those things things into their life as a habit that will have life on the other end. The specific things they learn, the content, the programs, the process, those are the kinds of things that we can adapt and change with a whole lot more flexibility. So as a leader, hold that in tension. You're trying to contextualize these unique things, adapt the process, and when necessary, adapt the philosophy, but not very much. Hold to those things as best you can, and let's let the flexibility happen in the program or in the content.